The sky of Veralia 7 shimmered in shades of violet and amber, streaked with the trails of distant comets. On the jagged cliffs that overlooked the endless crystal plains, the alien warrior Arila stood, her form coiled like a panther ready to strike. Her species had long been the dominant force in this sector of the galaxy, renowned for their strength, their sharp instincts, and their unyielding pride. She had never hesitated in battle, never doubted her supremacy. Until today, a human had appeared in the midst of her patrols, seemingly alone, unarmed, and fearless. The mere audacity of his presence had caused murmurs among her scouts, whispers of disbelief. Humans were fragile, soft, untested in the harshness of this galaxy. Yet the one before her walked with a calm that was alien in itself. "Step aside," Arila commanded, her voice a metallic echo amplified by her armor. The cliff's winds carried it with authority, a warning that usually compelled obedience. The human stopped, raising his hands slowly, showing nothing but his open palms. "I'm not afraid of you," he said, his voice steady, even gentle, but layered with a firmness that resonated across the stones. Arila froze. The words were simple, yet they struck deeper than any blade ever could. Her hands, which always held her weapon with unerring precision, trembled slightly at her sides. She had fought countless enemies, faced death more times than she could count, yet never had a spoken challenge unsettled her. And yet here it was, not a shout, not a threat, just a declaration. "Do you even know what you're saying?" she asked, trying to mask her astonishment with scorn. Her species rarely encountered courage that did not waver under pressure. "I know exactly what I'm saying," the human replied. He shifted his weight lightly, scanning the uneven ground with careful eyes. "You may be stronger than me. You may be faster. But I do not fear what you might do to me." Arila's claws dug into her gauntlets. Trembling, she tried to steady herself. Her pride, a force as rigid and unyielding as the mountains themselves, bristled in confusion. No alien had ever faced her this way. No enemy had ever spoken such defiance without trembling first. "You are reckless," she said finally, almost a whisper to herself. "Perhaps," the human admitted. "But I have learned something. Fear clouds judgment. Fear makes the strong hesitate. I am not here to fight you out of fear. I am here to fight because I choose to." Arila's mind reeled. Her species valued strength, dominance, and instinct, but she had never encountered a mind that could challenge her in such a quiet, unwavering manner. The human's calm, measured gaze met hers, unflinching, unbroken. "Why are you here?" she demanded, regaining some semblance of command. "To understand," he said. "To see why you fight, why your people dominate. And perhaps to show you another way." Arila laughed, a sound like breaking crystal. "Another way?" she asked. "Do you even know what that means in our world? In this sector, survival is everything. Power is everything. You would die before you understood our ways." The human tilted his head slightly, his expression unafraid. "Then I will die trying. But dying does not make me weak. Fear does. And I have none." Something shifted in Arila then. A spark of curiosity, of fascination, of something unfamiliar and dangerous. She had spent centuries mastering the art of war, yet she could not recall a moment when words alone unsettled her so profoundly. Her hands, now trembling openly, clutched the edges of her weapon, not to strike, but because she was struggling to find balance in the storm of her thoughts. "You are unlike any human I have ever seen," she said, her voice softer, betraying her surprise. "And you are unlike any alien I have ever met," he replied. "I expected to find monsters, conquerors, creatures who valued only strength. But here you are, capable of thought, capable of doubt. Isn't that what makes a warrior truly strong?" Arila's eyes narrowed. She did not answer immediately, instead observing him. The cliffs around them seemed to fall away, as though time itself had paused. The human's words were disarming, not with threat, but with clarity. For the first time in her life, she felt the fragile weight of uncertainty. "You would speak of strength," she said finally, "yet you stand before me unarmed." "I am armed with my mind," he said simply, "and courage, and the truth that no weapon can instill fear if the one wielding it chooses not to fear." The wind gusted, tugging at her armor, rattling her composure. Arila's species had never faced an opponent like this, an opponent whose very essence contradicted centuries of her understanding. She had been trained to dominate, to rely on power, yet this human showed her that strength could take other forms. She trembled because she felt, for the first time, that power was not absolute. "Why do you not tremble?" she asked, almost incredulously. "Because trembling comes from fear, and I do not fear you," he said. "I respect you, yes. I do not underestimate you. But fear? Fear would bind me, and I am not bound." Arila's mind spun. Respect and fear were entwined in her species' culture. One could not exist without the other. And yet, here was proof that it could be severed. Proof that someone, fragile in appearance, could defy the natural order of domination and strength. I have never met a human like you," she whispered, almost to herself. Her hands shook violently now, gripping the hilt of her weapon without the intent to strike. Her thoughts scattered and focused all at once. She had never questioned her place in the galaxy, never doubted the supremacy of her kind. But the human before her challenged that. Not with weapons, but with conviction. "Then perhaps it is time you meet more," he said gently. "You may find that fear is not as universal as you were taught. That courage can exist even in the weakest forms. That strength is not just the power to destroy, but the power to stand." For a long moment, silence reigned over the cliffs. Even the wind seemed to pause, watching this exchange. Arila's trembling hands fell slightly, and her breathing, so controlled in battle, became irregular. She could feel the ground beneath her shifting, not from the earth, but from the quake within herself. "You speak boldly," she said finally, "but words alone cannot protect you here. One wrong move and you would be crushed." "I know," he said, meeting her gaze without flinching. "And yet, here I stand." The alien warrior could not reconcile this. She had trained her entire life to fight invaders, to assert dominance over weaker species, to rely on instinct and raw power. And now she faced a paradox she had never imagined. A human, small and frail by her standards, yet unyielding, unafraid, and unbroken. Her hands trembled because her understanding of the galaxy, of power, of fear itself, was crumbling. "You make me doubt," she admitted, her voice barely audible. "I do not know why, but I am unsettled by you." "Then perhaps," the human said, stepping slightly closer, "it is time to learn a new way of seeing." The wind shifted, carrying the scent of the crystal plains below, glittering like shattered glass. Arila's gaze softened, her trembling hands finding the strength to release her weapon. She did not lower it entirely, but she no longer gripped it as a lifeline. Something in her had changed, and she did not yet understand the shape of that change. "Why do you not fear death?" she asked, genuinely curious. "Because fearing it serves no purpose," he replied. "It cannot be avoided forever, and worrying about it only weakens the present. I choose to live, and I choose to stand, even if the end comes." Arila's claws flexed involuntarily. She had never heard such words spoken with such calm certainty. Her species revered strength, but this human displayed a form of power they had never encountered: strength of spirit, strength of mind. She had faced countless warriors in her life, each leaving her scarred, but none had left her so profoundly shaken with a mere conversation. "You are," Dangerous, she whispered, almost a confession. Not in the way I know, but dangerous in your mind. And perhaps that is the greatest danger of all, he said. A mind unafraid is unstoppable in ways weapons cannot measure. Arila exhaled slowly, her shoulders loosening. Her hands no longer trembled as violently, though the echo of their shake lingered. For the first time, she questioned the nature of fear, of strength, of dominance itself. She realized that power was not absolute, that courage was not limited to the strong, that even the smallest, most fragile being could inspire change in the mightiest warrior. You have taught me something, she said finally, something I never believed possible. I only reminded you, he replied. It was already there, waiting to be seen. The sun dipped below the horizon, bathing the cliffs in molten gold and violet shadows. The alien warrior stood silently beside the human, neither fully enemy nor ally, yet both transformed by this encounter. The trembling had ceased, replaced by a strange, newfound respect. Arila looked at him, her mind racing with possibilities she had never considered. Perhaps the galaxy was larger, more complex, more nuanced than her people had taught. Perhaps strength was not the only path. And perhaps, just perhaps, she could learn to stand without fear, even as she had once commanded others to tremble. Your courage. It is remarkable, she said at last. And yours is too, he said, smiling faintly. Because it took courage to face me, even as I faced you. The wind howled, carrying away the tension, leaving only the quiet realization that everything had shifted. The alien warrior, once unshakable, had felt fear in a new form. And the human, unarmed and undaunted, had proven that courage could outshine any weapon, outlast any blade, and challenge even TH.